it's Brian Lust back with you again on Personal Profile. I'm standing here again with Arhomuz. How you doing, Arhomuz?
Fine, now that you got the name correct, Chambers Family Singers. But it's good to be here, and we see we've got a nice group of people. And
you said the Chambers Family Singers.
Yeah, well, it's a family, an extended family of the Chambers. You mentioned the Chambers brothers, and they're back there also. It seemed like you've talked with them before.
Yeah, I think I met them about years ago at the old Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco.
Really?
A couple of guys are here, I believe.
Yeah, why don't you everyone introduce yourself? Right behind you, we have Judah.
How are you?
Fine, Judah. How are you?
Oh, fine, thank you.
And also, this is it's George Chambers. It's Willie Chambers right here. You think you can get a word in? But just ask them how they,
How you doing? Nice to see you.
How you been? Good to see you again. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
I remember you from the Fillmore. I don't remember your name, but I do remember your face.
Well, it's nice that you remember my face. I remember you guys. Likewise. How you doing?
I'm George.
Hi, George. Nice to see you again.
All right, why don't we go down and here's everyone's names. Everyone tell their name. And
Hi, my name's Debbie.
Marion, hi.
Willie Chambers.
Jewel. Robin.
Liz.
Sorry, Liz. Let's try that again.
Liz.
Ray.
Ingrid.
Joe.
Maxine.
And that's the group. How long have you been connected with them?
Say. Yeah.
Excuse me?
3 years. 3 years, yeah.
3 years. Yeah, roughly.
And you're the musical conductor?
No, I'm just happen to be
Arranger?
for this particular tune. We all, the unique thing about it is we all at different points in time do different things. Some of the people in the group play different instruments, and
Do you sing as well?
yes. Mm-hmm.
But today you're just going to be conducting, huh?
Well, I'll be singing too.
Oh, I see.
We'll all be singing. This will be a group effort on the singing side,
I see.
and we have our musicians in the background, and we'll be hearing them as
Okay.
well. So.
Okay, and here's the Chambers Family Singers with Touch the Sky.
I am but one.
Welcome to the Arhomuzone. I'm your host, Arhomuz. The Holy Book says the high priests go into the king's chamber, and today we have one of those chambers here with us today. My good friend, I'm so delighted and so happy to bring this brother, introduce this brother. It's Mr. Willie Chambers from the legendary group, the Chambers Brothers.
How do you do? Hey.
Time has come today.
Yes, indeed.
Man, we just saw a clip of a song that I produced back in the day. I met the family and these brothers through a lady named Lithofane Pridgeon, was Jimi Hendrix's lady.
Yeah.
She introduced me to Judah, and I met you guys, and the rest is history.
Right.
Man, that song, the clip you just saw was a song called Touch the Sky that I produced back in the day. It was such a blessing to do music with these brothers. But history goes way back, and we want to just kind of delve into some of that history in the short time that we have today with this brother right here, Mr. Willie Chambers. I mentioned Jimmy. Back in 1968, the song Time Has Come Today, it hit the nation. It just exploded all over the planet. Willie, talk to us, man. How do we just kind of jump right in? 1968.
1968. Time has come today. Time has come today. My brothers and I had a two-story band house over on Crenshaw, 2129 Crenshaw, just above Adams. I think it was right near Johnny Pastrami. And I was sitting down in the dining room area with an acoustic guitar, and I was playing that music. My brother Joe was upstairs writing lyrics. He came to the top of the stairway and he says, "What's that music you're playing?" I says, "I don't know. It's just something that's just coming to me. I don't know. I don't have a title." He says, "Well, I'm up here writing, and I could hear you down there playing, and the music fits very well with the lyrics that I'm writing." I said, "Well, bring it down here. Let's see what we got."
Right.
So,
right.
We had a basement there, and in the basement we had turned it into a rehearsal studio, so we could play music any time of night or day we wanted to, and it was a great thing. There's no way we could disturb anybody because we were on the ground.
Right.
So he brought it down. We got everybody into the rehearsal studio, and it was magic. Like the lyrics and the music was just perfect together. So it was about a 2 or 3 minute song, 2.5 minutes. Time has come today. And one night I was laying in my bed, and it's just, I take credit for writing songs, but I never wrote a song in my life. They come from God.
See.
It just comes, the whole song, the lyrics, the arrangement, everything is all there in one package. But I take credit for it. I guess it's okay to do that because the songs keep coming.
That's right. Now, see, you mentioned the 2 or 3 minutes, but there's a version. It's a long version with the psychedelic part.
Yeah, that's when psychedelic music was trying to be. But it had no structure. It just sounded like somebody threw a bunch of knives and forks into the air, and whatever the sound was, that was considered psychedelic. And the thought came to me like saying, extend that song, make it our contribution to psychedelic music. I got everybody. I said, man, I just got this idea, just came to me, man, that we're going to make our contribution to psychedelic music. So it got everybody in the studio, and it just worked perfectly. But we needed a cowbell. We needed a clock, tick tock tick. We needed a sound. Well, cowbells was in the country. The cows all had a cowbell, but
so they really used it to call the cows.
Wow. That's how you knew where your cows were.
Wow.
But in music, some of the Latin groups were using cowbells a bit, but it was never a popular instrument in the music industry. So you couldn't find a cowbell anywhere. So we found a old Plymouth bumper in an alleyway. So we took that bumper guard off that old Plymouth bumper.
Use it as a cowbell?
That was our that was our clock. That was our first original.
Yeah.
So when he hit it, tick tock, that gave the clock sound. But somebody stole it out of our dressing room. That was the beginning of the long extension on that song, and it turned out to be 11 minutes and some seconds. But it was our contribution to psychedelic music. So we were signing with Columbia Records, and there was a celebration. Welcome to the label, and all of that kind of stuff. Mr. Davis,
As in Clive
was there,
Right.
and he was leaving. He says, "I gotta go. I have some more appointments." And he was walking out the door, and he leaned back in the doorway, and he says, "Oh, by the way, that song, The Time Has Come Today, that you guys do, we won't be doing that. We don't do that kind of on this label." Our producer went into tears because he had followed us around. David Rubinson was our producer. He was a staff producer at Columbia Records, and he was in tears because he had followed us around some 2 years or better, and his biggest dream was to someday record The Time Has Come Today. And a couple of days went by, and he called us at our hotel, and he says, "I don't care what he says, we're going to record that song anyway. I'm probably going to lose my job, but we're going to record that song." Now, there's a man with a wife and 2 kids, paying rent, and
he believed in that song.
He believed in that. He knew that song had something going on. So did we.
Right.
And
Right.
a couple of days went by, and he called us, and he says, when we get our studio date, you guys show up 45 minutes an hour early. We're going to plug up the amps. We're going to do it live. We're going to record it live. Whatever we get, that's what we're going to have to live with. We cannot overdub. We can't splice. We can't even listen back. Whatever we get,
you can't punch in like they do.
Can't do
none of
nothing. It was all done in one take.
Wow.
At the same time we were recording it, David Rubinson was doing the effects at the same time. It all went down in one take. And he says, when we finish, we're just going to shut the machine down like we haven't been there. And sure enough, when Clive Davis found out about it, he did fire David Rubinson. He fired David Rubinson. And the song was now hitting the charts. It was just
like wow.
Nobody had ever heard anything like that. It was a lot of crazy screaming and cowbell, and it was
right.
It was a different.
Right.
So we were told by the industry, get some suits, put down the guitar, learn some steps, and go play your own music. So my brother Joe says, "What do you mean play our own music? We wrote this music. That is our music. Well, how can it be someone else's? We wrote these songs." And when the record got produced and finished and pressed and everything, they gave us 2 boxes of albums to give to our friends or whatever, Frisbee or whatever we wanted to do with them. And I was looking at, we were excited. We were in a hotel in New York. We were all excited, and I'm looking at the album, and it said, "Time Has Come Today." Underneath it said, David Rubinson and Fred Kater. Fred Kater was the engineer. David Rubinson was a producer.
On your record?
On our record, yeah, but I happened to know what that meant. And I said to my brothers, "Look at this." They looked at it and says, "What does that mean?" I said, "That means they are the writers of The Time Has Come Today." So I said to Joe, "We got to go down to Columbia Records. We got to talk to Mr. Davis." So we go down there and we walk in. The receptionist says, "Can I help you?" Says, "Yeah, we need to see Mr. Davis." "Do you have an appointment?" No, we don't have an appointment.
No, he didn't want to see you at that time, but
we don't have an appointment here. So she says, "Well, he's very busy." "Well, you go back there and see if he's got a minute. This will only take a minute." So she goes back there and she comes back and she says, "He said he's busy. He's very busy." So at that point, we just
went on
past her,
exactly,
went right to him, and says, "Look at this." He says, "What are you talking about? This is not going to happen to us."
Right.
You know,
someone else taking credit for the work, and I'm sure in the '60s,
if we didn't know,
they would have. Wow.
That happened to so many artists, so especially black artists that was being signed by major labels,
right?
And the producers and managers was taking credit for the songs because they didn't know what it meant to see that name under the title of the. If you see the title of a song, underneath there is the writer,
right?
Whatever name appears underneath the title, that's considered to be the writer. And so there was a producer named Bumps Blackwell, and I had been doing some studio work with him for a long time, and like he was telling me all these things. I learned all these things from Bumps Blackwell, and that's how we saved our song.
Saved it.
Yeah.
So you're fighting just to keep the record. And I can imagine in '68, you come from a gospel background from Mississippi.
Yes.
So how, and now you're combining now gospel, you're combining rock and roll, and of course blues, because you know your brother Lester went on to play with John Lee Hooker. You played with with blues artists.
Well, it kind of happened. We were back in the cotton fields in Mississippi when we were babies. I remember when I was 4 years old, I started playing guitar when I was 4.
How many lessons had you had up until that time?
None whatsoever. The first time I had a guitar in my hand, I could play it. I thought that's what you do. You play it and you sing songs.
Now, before I have to say this, because a lot of people, especially in this generation, don't know where music comes from.
Yeah.
Before playing, you picked cotton?
Uh-huh.
Well, that was a common practice in Mississippi at the time.
It was mandatory. If you were a sharecropper living on somebody's land, you had to do at least 35, 40 acres of cotton and 30, 40 acres of corn. That was mandatory. That gave you a house to live in. Your family lived in, some of them were makeshift houses. You could lay in your bed and count the stars.
Now see, Willie, in this generation can't even fathom that type of. They hear about it, there's stories about it. You go from sharecropping, picking cotton, to touring the world with. You're on shows with Jimi Hendrix. You're on shows with Janis Joplin. How does that feel when you tour?
Friends with Sonny and Cher.
During that time. Wow. And it wasn't a lot of black groups, let's just be honest, in that field during that time, because that was considered rock and roll, and you had Taj Mahal, Jimmy, but there weren't too many black.
In the 60s, a lot of black artists were being signed to labels, recorded, and shelved. Never, it was a big write-off. It was a tax write-off for labels, and they were doing that to black artists. It's a shame, but that's the truth. And we were back in the cotton fields. We were gospel. That's all we ever wanted to do was gospel songs and music. And we did it when we were 6 and 7, 8 years old. Myself, and my 2 younger brothers, Joseph and Lester, and 2 of our cousins and a friend, we were a junior gospel group. and George and our brother Major, they were in a senior group. But in the cotton fields and working in the fields, we were always singing together. And one day we said, wait a minute, why don't we just have a family group within ourselves, you know?
Right.
Like, why don't we just be
Self-contained.
Self-contained, yeah. Everybody learn how to play instruments, and we become, well, and that came some years later that suddenly everybody learning to play. So we grew up
on bass, correct?
Yeah.
Your brother George.
George learned how to play the bass. My brother Joe learned how to play guitar, and Lester he learned how to play harmonica. That all came later. But we came to California in 1965. I was 16 years old, and we still doing our gospel music. That's all we ever wanted to do was gospel music, and still to this day. My brother George passed away a couple of years ago, and he died waiting for us to get back to our gospel. Anyway, we got taken away from the gospel thing. Joe was he was conking black guys' hair, relaxing the hair, taking the kinks out.
Like a hairdresser?
Yeah, like a.
Wow, didn't know
he
that.
was doing that at home, and guys was coming and getting their hairs. You know.
See, when you think about all the different roads lead to home, and look, I want to get to one of those roads too, because that's deep. How something that was written so long ago still has relevance today, and I have to bring this up as a personal experience because speaking of a year and a half ago, maybe about a year and a half. Before the Oscars, and I'm over there at the house, and you're saying, we're going to win the Academy Award, Romeo.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, now that's not something you hear black man say every day. You were saying this for a couple of weeks. So I remember we watched it. When it came out, we at the house. You hadn't seen it in 50 years, and what we're talking about is The Summer of Soul. The film that was buried because it was advertised as the Black Woodstock, and nobody supposedly wanted to see that. Anyway, we're waiting that famous night of the Academy Awards, and I'm thinking to myself, Willie's saying, we're going to win the Academy Award. He had a feeling.
I just knew it had to.
It had to happen.
Why not? It has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be.
So look, on that historic night, they're ready to announce the winner. And all of a sudden, because it is going to be a magnificent night for black people, for black culture, for something that's 50 years ago, something as powerful as the Summer of Soul, all of a sudden, the world witnesses Will Smith being lifted by his spirit up out of his seat. And next thing you know, he slaps Chris Rock in the mouth, derails the whole thing. But the moral of the story is that night that movie did win an Academy Award for the best documentary of a major thing. And it's so good that this song is still, to this day, one of the most played songs in like movies, television, and
time has come
commercials. Time has come today, and we want to get into that, man. We're limited in terms of time at this time because, man, we could talk forever.
We could go on.
We could go on because we have. But just to touch briefly, yes, that song in the film was used to show the social consciousness. A song that was co-written by Betty Mabry, Miles Davis' wife, Betty Davis, and it was one of the highlights of that film. That song, the group, the Chambers Brothers, still relevant today. Still going strong today, and you got some stuff coming up, some gospel, some original things. We're going to be looking for a song called Big Train that's going to be coming down the line, among some other things. So we're going to talk further about that at another time, man. Welcome to Arhomuzone coming through. We're going to continue this, but
time has gone today.
Well, and it's going to come again. So I want to thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Mr. Willie Chambers of the legendary Chambers Brothers, my good buddy.
Thank you.
And I thank you for being a member of the human race, because the song is created such a groundswell of consciousness.
We'll get
in the
back.
world.
We'll get to the story next time about
We
how
will.
we ended up being a rock and roll band
Exactly.
and why.
Exactly. Thanks for tuning in, Arhomuzone. We'll see you next time. Peace and blessings.